Gary walked in like he always did. Slow, casual, no tie, coffee in hand. But something was off. His smile was forced, and he stood too long at the front of the all-hands meeting before speaking. The room went quiet. Then he dropped the bomb. "We're heading into a new chapter," he said, voice steady. "I've decided to take a temporary step back. A wellness retreat, starting tomorrow." Dead silence. No one moved, no one breathed. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. That man just spent the last 2 months ripping the place to shreds. Audits, vendor overhauls, Q4 bloodbath. We'd barely recovered from the last restructure, and now he was off to go meditate in the mountains. And in my absence, he continued, Haley will be stepping in as acting CEO. My stomach dropped. Haley, his daughter. MBA, fresh startup hyped, zero real world anything. Most of us hadn't even met her. The last time I saw her, she was 22, tagging along to the Christmas party in heels too big for her, and talking about being a visionary. A murmur rolled through the room, just as the double doors opened, and there she was. Haley walked in like it was prom night. 5-inch heels, silk blazer, some kind of designer purse dangling off her wrist like a trophy. She was late, of course, and grinning. "Hi, everyone," she chirped, waving like we were toddlers at story time. "So excited to be here." She clicked over to the podium, plopped her bag down, and opened her laptop like it was a runway show. Then she launched into this rapid-fire, buzzword-heavy monologue about velocity and de-siloing synergies. She kept saying we were going lean, young, fast. I lost count of how many times she said disruption. And then came the org chart. It popped up on the screen like some color-coded acid trip. Half the departments were renamed into nonsense. Ops became flow execution. HR was people energy. Whole sections were grayed out. No titles, just blank spaces. People around me started whispering. I didn't say a word, just stared. She pointed at a cluster of names and said, "This group will sunset over the next week. Not because we don't value you, but because the future is now sunset?" Was that supposed to be cute? 12 years I gave to that place. I ran the damn operations side when Gary couldn't remember who managed inventory. And now I was watching a child with a LinkedIn addiction swing an axe she didn't even understand. By the end of the day, the layoffs had already started. Haley strutted through the office like she was auditioning for a reality show. Smiling, waving, footsteps sharp against the hall tiles. No eye contact, no hesitation. And I knew this wasn't just change. This was incompetence in a power suit. The next morning, a calendar invite hit my inbox. No subject, just one line. Touch base, CEO office. No agenda, no notes, just her office. I stared at it for a few seconds, then clicked accept. I didn't need to check the calendar. I knew what it was. I walked down the hall like I was heading to my own funeral. Nobody made eye contact. A few glanced up and quickly looked away. The same people I'd pulled through crisis after crisis. Janet during her divorce. Malik when his son overdosed. Even Paul, who nearly burned down the loading dock last year. All of them silent. Haley's office door was open. She was sitting there like a cartoon villain, legs crossed, sipping some radioactive-looking green drink through a glass straw. She didn't say hi, didn't even look up, just tapped something on her screen. "I'll get straight to it," she said, finally glancing at me. "Your role doesn't align with my vision for the company." That was it. No thank you, no handshake. Just a buzzword-flavored bullet to the head. She tapped a button under her desk. I didn't even notice at first, but I heard the door open behind me. 2 guys in security uniforms walked in. Not our usual security. These were rent-a-cops. Young, bulky, overcompensating. "Please collect your things," one of them said, without looking me in the eye. I turned back to Haley. "Really?" She didn't flinch. "This is standard procedure. We're ensuring a clean transition." I almost laughed. "A clean transition? You really think I'm going to go rogue? You think I'm a threat?" "I think legacy systems resist change," she said. Then she smiled like she'd said something profound. I didn't give her the satisfaction. I walked out, both security guys flanking me. We went straight to my desk. People noticed. Heads popped up. Whispers started, but nobody moved. Not even Malik, not even Janet. I packed 3 things: my coffee mug, ceramic, chipped on the handle, a tiny succulent my daughter gave me 3 years ago, and a dry cleaning receipt I forgot was under my keyboard. Everything else? Gone, badge deactivated, laptop already wiped. They'd wiped the endpoint, but no one revoked my legacy sandbox credentials. My name was off the directory before I reached the elevator. The doors closed. No one said goodbye. I drove home in silence. No music, no calls. Just the sound of tires on asphalt and that low hum of disbelief pressing into my chest. At home, I didn't go inside right away. I sat in the car, holding the mug in one hand, the succulent in the other, feeling like some old relic packed up from a forgotten office. When I finally stepped inside, the house felt cold, too quiet. I set the mug on the counter, placed the plant next to it, then just stood there, staring at the wall. It wasn't the firing. I'd seen it coming. Hell, I would have left with some dignity if they'd just asked. It was the way she did it, the silent alarm, the muscle, the fake calm in her voice, like she was doing me a favor. It was theater, a show for the interns and slackers to see what change looked like. 12 years, erased with a click and a smoothie. I sat down at the kitchen table, hands still on the ceramic. It was still warm from my grip. And I realized something. I wasn't angry, not yet. I was humiliated. And that was worse. I didn't sleep that night, didn't even try. I just sat there, alone in the dark, replaying every second of that pathetic little ambush. Around 2 a.m., I got up, walked into the garage, and yanked open an old file cabinet. Way in the back, behind a stack of tax junk and a busted ruler, I found it. My old work laptop. Battery was dead, dust on the screen, but it still booted once I plugged it in. And there it was. A folder labeled Contingency. Not a revenge folder, not blackmail, just insurance. Stuff I kept over the years. Settlement documents, vendor audits, meeting recordings, flagged payments. Things that didn't sit right, but got waved off as handled. I opened one file, then another, then another. By 3:30, I was shaking from a mix of rage and caffeine. One file hit different. A vendor audit on Torvis Holdings LLC, buried in a quarterly review from 2 years back. Torvis had been red flagged for inflated invoices, vague deliverables, no contract trail. We'd shut them down. Or thought we did. I checked again. Haley, or someone under her, had started routing payments back to Torvis, steady amounts every 2 weeks, starting 6 days after Gary stepped away. And those amounts, they lined up almost exactly with a confidential settlement tied to Carly Maris, our former compliance director who suddenly resigned last fall. I dug deeper, pulled archived routing logs, bounced around old sandbox servers Gary had no clue existed. She never changed the access protocols. She didn't even know they were there. I found a confidential memo labeled Legal Q4 Settlement Resolution. Large payout. Full NDA. No board review. CEO signature. Gary R. Ashford. I saved a copy locally, hands cold, jaw locked. The board never saw this. HR never logged it in the quarterly report. It was scrubbed, like it never happened. At 4:15, I opened a new Proton Mail tab, created a burner account. To trish.davenport@ashfordholdings.com. Subject, anonymous Q, for settlement/Torvis payments. Immediate audit request. Body Trish, urgent, see attached. Board has not been informed of Q4 settlement payout. C. Morris. Signed by CEO without full review. New payments routed through Torvis Holdings LLC. Flagged vendor. See 2022 audit. Cross-check vendor trail and NDA timeline. This is not just incompetence. A friend of the company, I attached the memo and 2 expense reports. No signature, no trace. Then I hit send. The email vanished into the void, and I just sat there staring at the screen. I should have felt nervous. I didn't. I felt steady. 12 years of running systems, and they didn't bother checking what doors I still had keys to. The sandbox routing server, archived emails, budget drafts, executive flags. Haley had no idea how any of it worked. She thought PowerPoints and hashtags were going to run the company, so I kept watching, quietly, patiently, The budget line items under her name started getting messy. Reimbursements for consulting sessions that didn't match vendor codes. Recurring payments labeled strategic vendor retainer. All tied back to Torvis. Same ghost firm, same paper trail, same damn scam. It wasn't just that she didn't know better. She didn't care. She thought she could fake it, bluff through the audits, and blame the mess on legacy systems. And I realized this wasn't about me getting humiliated in front of an open office floor. This was about them thinking they could bury everything. Again. So I loaded one more document into the contingency folder, highlighted, annotated, clean, and I waited. One grenade had just been launched. More were coming. Need clarification on Q4 settlements. Please provide all documentation by end of day. That was it. No fluff, no smiley face, no warming it up. By noon, HR was scrambling. Legal started pinging back and forth like their keyboards were on fire. 2 executive assistants canceled meetings, one of them mid-lunch. The energy inside the building turned. No more buzzwords, no more swaggy Slack threads. Just tension. Gary, totally off the grid, supposedly at a wellness retreat in Arizona. But when Trish's assistant tried to reach him, all they got was a landline voicemail from a private rental estate with no cell service, no forwarding, and no staff. HR called Haley into a touch point an hour later. She walked in smiling, came out looking like she'd swallowed drywall. I still had access to the sandbox email router. I caught her reply to Trish as it hit the outbound queue. It was a disaster. "Hi, Trish." The payout in question was a legacy liability tied to non-strategic alignment, already resolved via standard channels. Appreciate your proactive concern. Legacy liability. Trish forwarded the response straight to legal, CC'd finance, and didn't respond to Haley directly. She didn't need to. Thursday night, I drove to a diner just off Route 38. Quiet, half-dead place with cracked booths and a waitress who didn't care if you ordered or not. Carly Maris was already waiting. She looked tired. Not older, just done. Hair pulled back, glasses instead of contacts. Blazer too clean, like she was trying to fake stability. "I figured it was you," she said as I slid into the booth. I didn't deny it, just handed her the USB. "I kept everything," I said. "The memo. The Torvis trail. Your NDA, Gary's signature." She stared at it for a second. Didn't touch it. "You know what that cost me?" she asked. "Keeping quiet? I can guess." "No, you can't." She finally picked up the USB. "They didn't just push me out. They told me if I spoke up, it'd void the entire settlement and trigger litigation. Said it'd ruin my professional reputation." She glanced around the diner like someone might be watching, then leaned in. It was Gary. Not just Haley, he signed off on the deal. He told me Torvis was being handled quietly. Said it was cleaner this way. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. "I've still got the original emails," she said. "Screenshots, hard copies, the whole thread. If they want to dig, fine, let them." "You sure?" I asked. She nodded. "They don't get to bury me and keep dancing." Carly slid the USB into her purse and stood. She didn't shake my hand, didn't say goodbye, just walked out. I sat there for another 10 minutes. Let it all settle. This wasn't just Haley being out of her depth anymore. This was the old man's rot, still seeping through the walls. He didn't go to Arizona to relax. He went off-grid to dodge fallout. He knew it was coming. But this time, it wasn't just whispers in private meetings or files getting quietly deleted. This time, the people they chewed up were still alive. And they remembered. I paid the bill, walked out to my truck, and opened the backup folder again. 2 more memos, 5 vendor invoices, 3 internal HR reports with red flags, resolved internally. I didn't send anything else that night. I didn't need to. The first crack was already spreading. The building shook before he even opened his mouth. Gary stormed through the main hallway like he was chasing a fire. Red-faced, sweating windbreaker half-zipped. No assistant, no laptop. Just a half-crushed file folder under one arm and hell in his eyes. He didn't say hi to anyone. Just marched straight into the exec wing and bellowed, "Where the hell is she?" Haley was in one of those glass-walled huddle rooms playing Visionary again. Standing in front of a touchscreen whiteboard, drawing arrows that didn't mean anything, while Kyle and Cameron nodded like bobbleheads. Gary threw open the door, slammed her untouched Starbucks onto the cabinet behind her, and barked, "We're doing this now. Where's the org chart?" Haley froze, marker still in hand. "Dad, Now?" She swallowed, grabbed her iPad, and pulled it up. Her hand was shaking. Gary snatched it out of her grip and scrolled like he was gutting the thing. He didn't even sit down, just stood there reading it like a court order. "You laid off half the ops corps," he snapped. "You cut logistics planning and back-end scheduling. Why?" Haley glanced at Kyle, who suddenly discovered something fascinating on the floor. "It was part of the new direction," she mumbled. "We're going lean, remember?" He didn't answer, just kept scrolling. Then he stopped. His whole posture changed. "You approve Torvis?" She blinked. "What?" He turned the screen so Kyle and Cameron could see it. "Vendor contract. Torvis Holdings, LLC. 300,000 retainer, no delivery terms, no audit trail. That's the same firm we flagged in 2022. Haley tried to smile. Kyle said it was strategic. Part of our pivot, Gary spun on her. "You trusted Kyle on a six-figure vendor with a flagged history?" "I mean, I skimmed it. It looked fine." He went dead quiet. "Haley," he said, barely above a whisper, "did you even read the contract?" Her silence was the answer. Gary turned away, eyes locked on the chart like it might explain how everything went this sideways. "I told you this company wasn't a toy," he said. "I told you if you stepped in, you had to know what you were touching." She reached out like she could still fix it. "Dad, I was trying to keep momentum." "No," he said, cutting her off. "You were pretending. You don't know this place." The silence after that was brutal. Gary didn't yell, didn't curse, just looked her in the eye and said, "Get out." Kyle's chair squeaked as he stood. "Should I?" "Don't speak," Gary snapped. Cameron was already halfway to the door. Kyle followed. Haley stood there stunned, like her shoes were glued to the floor. Then her face twisted. "This was sabotage," she shouted. "Someone set me up. This isn't fair. I didn't do anything wrong." Gary didn't answer. He walked out. She grabbed her bag and stormed after him, eyes red, heels clacking like gunfire across the tile. People turned, but no one said a word. Her meltdown echoed through the halls until the elevator doors swallowed it. An hour after Haley's elevator tantrum, I got a text from an old contact in facilities. Trish plus Franklin, reservation under board group, Sullivan's Steakhouse, 7 p.m. Private booth. I didn't hesitate. Grabbed the red folder off my kitchen table, thick as a Bible, labeled in black marker, chronology of lies. Every buried memo, every falsified vendor trail, every settlement Gary hushed since 2018, time-stamped, sourced, organized. I walked into Sullivan's at 6:57 and asked for the board party. The hostess blinked, then pointed toward the back. Trish looked up from her wine glass as I approached. Franklin glanced at his watch. Neither looked surprised. I slid into the booth, pulled the folder from my coat, and set it down. "This goes deeper than bad judgment," I said. They weren't just sloppy. They were hiding everything. Trish opened the folder and started flipping. Her expression didn't change, but her hand slowed every few pages. Start talking," she said. So I did. I walked them through every detail, starting with Carly's silencing, then the reactivation of Torvis, then the NDA memo Gary signed without board review. I told them about the payments routed through shell vendors, the fake audits, the HR complaints that resolved themselves just before legal got wind. Franklin kept shifting in his seat. Trish didn't blink. "She had access to all of this?" he asked. "She didn't understand any of it," I said, "but she signed off anyway. Or didn't read it at all." Trish leaned back, closed the folder, and placed both hands on it. "Do you have backups?" she asked. 3, 1 physical, 2 encrypted, good. You'll keep them." An hour later, the building lit up again. Haley, panicked, cornered, still trying to control the narrative, went to IT, pulled one of the junior admins into a storage room, and tried to negotiate a full wipe of the sandbox server logs. She offered a bonus. "Just a little cleanup," she called it. The admin reported her within 20 minutes. IT logged the entire conversation. Security had it on tape. Legal and finance went into immediate scramble mode. Emails started flying. Old contracts were pulled. Outside counsel was pinged before midnight. By the time I checked my phone again, I had 2 unread alerts from someone in legal. Board MTG moved up, emergency vote, SEC chatter, be ready. That next morning, the conference room on floor 9 was locked down, curtains drawn, nameplates removed. Friday, 9 a.m. Emergency hearing, administrative leave. Trish opened the meeting with a single sentence. We are officially invoking Article 14B, emergency executive hearing for administrative leave pending investigation. Franklin seconded. General counsel confirmed protocol. SEC compliance officer dialed in. Outside the room, Haley sat alone on the edge of a leather bench, holding her phone like it might save her. Her support team? Nowhere in sight. Gary arrived 15 minutes late, jaw set, coat still on. He looked at no one. Inside, Trish led the charge. She read from the red folder. Memos, dates, financial inconsistencies, NDA cover-ups, the Torvis scandal. Every dotted line from Gary's pen to Haley's clueless execution. No one interrupted. Then she looked up and said, I move for immediate administrative leave for both Gary Ashford and Haley Ashford. Pending full investigation. Dead silence. Franklin raised his hand. Second. Legal nodded. Motion is valid. Vote on administrative leave begins now. 7 board members. 5 raised hands. 1 abstained. 1 hesitated. Then gave a slow, reluctant nod. Trish turned to HR. Escort them out. It was done. The boardroom lights were too bright. Monday, 3 p.m. Final removal hearing. Chairs perfectly spaced. A fresh carafe of coffee sat untouched. No small talk. No welcome backs. Gary and Haley sat side by side, but not close. She kept fidgeting with her phone. He just stared at the table like the wood grain had answers. Trish stood, calm, steady, folder in hand. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't have to. Let's begin, she said, and legal started projecting documents on the screen. First slide, payment log, Torvis Holdings, vendor codes, unapproved disbursements, exact match to scrubbed transactions. Next, Carly's NDA memo, CEO signature. No board review, settlement terms highlighted in red. Then came the server access logs. Haley's login approving reimbursements. Gary's password used 3 separate times on restricted compliance notes, long after he claimed he'd stepped away. Gary leaned forward. This was handled internally. Everything was above board. Trish didn't even look at him. That's not your call. He opened his mouth again but stopped. Haley snapped. This is a hit job, she said, loud, sharp. You all just hated that I came in with new ideas. You didn't want change. Franklin folded his arms. Nobody responded. This is about jealousy, Haley barked. I was actually doing something fresh. You old fossils just want to protect your little comfort zone. Enough, Trish said, finally facing her. You buried settlements and reactivated a vendor under legal review. You called that strategic? Haley's voice cracked. I didn't know. I wasn't told. Kyle said. Gary still hadn't moved. She turned to him. Dad? Say something? Nothing, just silence. Dad? He looked up just for a second. His face was blank. No defense, no emotion. Then he looked back down. You're gonna let them do this? Haley's voice pitched higher. You're seriously gonna sit there and let them kill our name? Still nothing. Legal cleared their throat. We're moving to a final removal vote. 7 board members. 5 hands went up without hesitation. 1 abstained, same as before. The last paused, then slowly raised their hand. That was it. Gary finally exhaled, deep and shaky. He nodded once, like he was agreeing with something no one else heard. Haley slammed her palms on the table. You're making a mistake. This is political. It's all a setup. Security entered the room. They didn't touch her, didn't have to. Gary stood, straightened his blazer, then looked around like he was seeing the place for the first time. She followed behind him, muttering curses under her breath, eyes darting everywhere. looking for a friendly face. There were none. I wasn't there. I watched it from a cafe 2 blocks away, still piggybacking on a forgotten admin account tied into the security feed. Haley came out first. Her heels snapped a hard staccato on the tile, bag over her shoulder, hair wild, jaw clenched. Gary followed slower, shoulders slumped, same coat, same silence. They walked through the lobby like ghosts, a fallen king and his heir with nothing left. No send-off, no goodbye speech, just the soft whoosh of the glass doors closing behind them. A silence settled over the screen. No one clapped. No one followed. The dynasty was dead. Tuesday morning, 7:03 a.m., the email hit every inbox. Subject: Executive transition announcement. Buried halfway down the 3rd paragraph, right after some polite legalese about Gary and Haley pursuing personal redirection, was the line that stopped everyone mid-scroll. Effective immediately, my full name will serve as interim chief operating officer of Ashford Holdings. Not advisor, not acting. Interim COO, full title, full seat. Slack blew up within seconds. Wait, him? Did not see that coming. Finally, someone who knows the plumbing. My phone buzzed non-stop. Half were congratulations. The other half were people pretending they hadn't ghosted me 3 weeks ago. At 8:15 sharp, a courier showed up at my front door. Company badge, sealed MacBook, embossed black folder with my name engraved on the front. No ceremony, just a signature and a nod. I held the badge in my hand for a long second, not to admire it, just to feel the weight of it. I walked into the building just after 9. No welcome banner, no HR photo op. Just a handful of double takes as I passed the main floor. Nobody spoke, but the stairs said everything. I took the elevator up to the executive wing. It dinged open like nothing had ever changed, like I hadn't been escorted out 2 weeks earlier like a criminal. Kyle was waiting near the coffee station. Same smug half smile, same haircut that screamed, "I think I'm important." He stuck out his hand. "Congrats, man. Really glad to have you." I handed him a single sheet of paper. Torvis vendor chain. Full breakdown. Every approval you signed, his smile dropped. I walked right past him. Gary's old door was still there, but the nameplate was gone. Just a placeholder now. Reserved. I stood there for a second. Thought of the nights I stayed late duct taping back-end systems together with no budget, forecasting with half the data and twice the pressure. I smiled, not wide, just enough. Then I opened my door and walked in.